excerpt from Mastiff. Well, what did you think I was doing? You knew it was a coming book. I'm going to go to the podium microphone. I'm going to put the walking microphone down here. And you're going to be good, right? Okay, sorry about the temporary occlusion of my face. Okay, this comes from near the beginning of the book. Becca has been awakened in the middle of the night by Lord Gershom, the Lord Provost, who says they've received an urgent summons and they must go out immediately, and he would not ask her. They have just buried the man that she had once thought she would marry that day, and he would not be calling her out at this point, but she does handle the best scent hound in the lower city. And perhaps at this point, it is now 3 years after Bloodhound, perhaps the best scent hound in all Chorus. So he is calling out her and her partner Tunstall, Achu the scent hound, and of course he goes, whether he's invited or not, the constellation cat Pounce. And they have taken a very fast boat called a peregrine boat, where the passengers are put to sleep so they won't throw up throughout the entire trip. And it's taken them to Blue Harbor, where they are met by a set of men from the King's Own who have been locked down by magic so that they are unable to tell them why they are summoned. And the mage named Farmer Cape, who has worked with Lord Gershom before. Neither Tunstall nor Becca have met him. And they are riding out to this unknown destination. And to get there, they have passed through a main gate, also guarded by men of the King's Own, and a second gate also guarded by men of the King's Own. And at this point, Becca and Tunstall have realized they are going to the Summer Palace. And Becca started to ask herself, why are the men of the King's Own, whose job is to guard the king's person, guarding on posts where the palace guard should be? Now just a brief reminder of some slang codes for men, lots of women, and I'll pretty well carry everything else as I go. They are riding on their way now. They are getting their first glimpses of the Summer Palace. "Brace yourselves," Count said from behind my ear. Tunstall looked our way, so he'd heard. Neither Lord Gershom nor the mage so much as twitched. They had not overheard. "For what, Hestaka?" Tunstall asked Pounce. It meant wise one in Tunstall's original herding. Pounce always got full of himself when Tunstall called him that, but not this time. "You'll see," he replied. Now the Summer Palace appeared through the trees on my left, a long building with an open corridor on this side. There were balconies and turrets, and it was all originally very pretty white stone, except for now, when soot streaks marred nearly every window frame. Part of this wing had collapsed into the cellars. Some of the remains stood open to the air. Others sported a single shutter or half-burned ones. Tatters of burned draperies and furniture had been thrust from the windows to lie haphazard below. A chill ran clean down my spine and up into my skull. This was fearful business. Achu whimpered and scrabbled against the ties that held her to the pack horse. Something was frightening her. "Would you release her?" I called to the men of the King's Own. "She needs to get down." The young woman rode to Achu's horse to do as I asked while I looked around. Between the palace and our road were gardens. Mayhap they'd been pretty too, But now that I eyed them and smelled them, I did not think they could ever be pretty again. Bodies lay among the flowers. Here were the missing palace guards, men of the king's own, and the black god knew how many servants, all sword-hacked or stabbed. Lord Gershom swore. Tunstall rode up to the older man of the king's own. "How many people have ridden this track before us?" he asked. Achu jumped to the ground. She ran over to my horse, her tail between her legs. She was near about spooked out of her fur. I began to slip from my horse when the man's voice stopped me. "There." I heard that choke. That was the magic trying to silence him. I disliked it more every time I heard it. "A large group rode over this place last night in the dark. All of us were in it. And it is not for this which you are called for. Come." "Not this," Lord Gershom demanded, but he set his horse in motion. The mage and I followed. Tunstall fell in with me as we passed. We heard my lord mutter, "What in Mithros' name can be worse?" That same question worried Tunstall and me for certain. I could not read Master Farmer's face yet. "Is this what you meant?" I asked Pounce in a whisper. "It's the beginning," he replied. Master Farmer looked at me. "So your cat talks," he remarked, as easy as if he rode past dead folk every day. "Doesn't it unsettle you?" "Easy, Becca," Pounce said in my mind, when I would have given the mage a tart answer. "He's frightened too, for all he doesn't act it." "He's talked to me for years," I replied. "I'm used to it." "Oh, good," Farmer replied, turning to face forward on his mount. "I wouldn't want you to put a good face on it for me." We rode past sight of the flower gardens, but the landscape of the dead continued. They had fought in the trees here. Tunstall pointed to the far side of the road. There were footprints on a wide path that led down toward the sea. I nodded. Had the enemy come from there, or had people tried to escape taking that path? If Tunstall, Achu, and I were supposed to make sense of this raid, we were sadly overmatched. I'd put at least 5 pairs of dogs on Summit as big as this raid, and more than one mage. Thinking of mages, wouldn't that seaward path be magic to the hilt? Wouldn't that wall down below be magicked just the same? Royalty came here for the summer. Surely those in charge of keeping them safe wouldn't leave their protection to a couple of walls and some guards. Now we reached the pretty open circle where their Majesty's guests might leave their chairs, horses, or wagons. This had been cleared of the dead. That there had been dead, I was near certain from the splashes of blood on the ground. Men of the king's own, all as grim as the others we had seen, took our horses. I called Achu to heel. She was sniffing the bloody spots now that I was on the ground with her, and followed Tunstall, Master Farmer, and my lord inside. Our guides did not come with us. Mayhap they did not want to face the soot-streaked, blood-splashed entry hall. We were turned over to a fleshy, white-haired cove who had mayhap been very well satisfied with his life a few days ago. Now I had to wonder if he would live out the month, for all that he wore a rich silk tunic and hose and a great gray pearl in one earlobe. "Your people may wait in there, Gershom," was the first thing he said. He pointed to a side room well fitted with chairs and small tables. "You will come with me." My lord gave us the nod, and we did as we were told. The room had escaped both fire and murder. There were pretty mosaics bordering the walls and inlaid at the window ledges. The shutters